Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Emilio Saliba. I'm the chairperson for AUSA's New South Wales and Canberra branch, and also one of the health and safety advisors at the University of New South Wales in Sydney. We just want to let you know that the session is being recorded at the moment, and before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm currently located on the unceded territory of the Bedegal people, who are the traditional owners of the land, where the main campus of UNSW is situated. Just some housekeeping. As I said, the session is going to be recorded. Please keep yourselves muted throughout the presentation. You're welcome to open up the videos and show us your pretty faces. That would be nice. And please make sure that you use the chat for any questions that you have. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and questions will be asked throughout the session as well, so everyone will have a chance to answer if you like. With regards to AUSA, as you know, October now has been the National Safe Work Month, so we've been taking advantage of that and having a range of webinars that deal with the theme of the month, which is Think Safe, Work Safe, and Be Safe. This is actually AUSA's last webinar for the month, and from a series that we had about 4 this month. I encourage you to check out and register for other future events that we have. As we've mentioned, they're free to members of AUSA, and also make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, and just that way you can keep up to date with any news that we've got and any events that we've got coming up. In this particular session, we'll discuss how mobile first technology is giving organizations the flexibility, the confidence, and the connectivity to improve their safety cultures, mobilizing teams towards what matters so they feel empowered and continuously improve, which is what we all want. Dwayne Duncan here with us is from On Fire Consultants, and he'll be our speaker for today. Dwayne actually specializes in management system design, implementation strategies, and continuous improvement frameworks. He'll be sharing his experience working in health, safety, and environment management for over 20 years, something that we all appreciate, in actually multiple industries and countries. Dwayne will also share his story with safety culture and why he's now working with the team to help thousands of organizations globally achieve operational success. Dwayne's also joined by Safety Culture's Regional Marketing Manager, Julian Nichols. So it's nice to have you guys with us. I'll hand over to you now. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Emilio, and thank you everyone for this opportunity for us just to jump on the session with you guys quickly and really just to share our story, at least my story, especially in the digital space, and how that has transformed pretty much everything that we do. Just a quick sanity check. Can you all see that, Julian? I think on the wrong screen. 2 seconds.
We could.
No, we're all good now. I clicked the wrong button. You guys can you see the presentation?
Yep. And if you just hit present, will be good.
Perfect. Yeah, just double checking.
Yep.
So yeah, guys, as mentioned, and again, thank you, Emilio, for this opportunity. We're really just going to be chatting to you around, mobile first technology, but really how technology has democratized or is democratizing safety for us, and a little bit of a journey that I've personally been on myself, but also just how safety culture through their iAuditor platform and the EdHub platform, how that really has enabled work in many aspects. Today's session, guys, is really going to be super relaxed and very informal. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be throwing out some questions to you guys throughout the session, and I really encourage you guys to stick your hand up, put a comment in the chats. Julian will pick up any questions if you've got any questions as we're discussing these topics. But to be honest with you, I'm more interested in just your views on the world. I'd hate for this to be a session where I just kind of talk for a period of time. So really interested to understand some of your challenges and some of the areas that we can potentially just kind of talk through in that session. So really looking forward to this being quite an engaging and open session with everyone on the call. Before we dive into it, just a little bit about myself, and thank you, Emilio, did an amazing introduction. So I've been very fortunate in my career in 20 odd years of safety, but more importantly, just being able to work in multiple countries across the globe. I think Australia now would be my fifth country I've lived and worked in, and just been really fortunate in terms of working across multiple cultures, multiple countries, and just multiple legal frameworks and the challenges that come with that as well. I would really define myself as saying I've kind of grown up in the telecommunications industry. So started my first kind of job, your proper job, straight out of university, with Vodacom, which is now Vodafone, and spent my life just in the telecommunications industry. So initially was in the environmental space, and then quickly went into safety and all things safety related, largely with regards to the large and aggressive rollouts of telecommunication towers across the globe. So there's pretty much most of the construction work when it came to building towers. We were leading the charge and very involved in a lot of those aspects. What was incredibly exciting from my point of view was just to see how, I don't know, all of you probably have got your own personal mobile phone stories, but in those early days of mobile phones, they literally were bricks that we were carrying around in our pockets, and it was I still remember those early days in 2000 where they were like, these mobile phones, they'll be nothing. They're just going to be this fad. They're going to come and they're going to go, and people were quite dismissive of the mobile phone technology. Roll back a couple of years, 20 odd years, look at it now where people actually how could you live without a mobile phone, and just the how technology has just entrenched in our lives, for better or for worse. The reality is we're so dependent on our mobile phones, and I've been very fortunate to be part of that kind of mobile phone journey and everything that's brought with it from a career point of view. Something else, and I think to the extent now people are quite anxious, almost aggressive. If you were to take their mobile phone away from them, your whole life is on your mobile phone, and they've become incredibly powerful pieces of equipment or technology that we all carry around in our pockets on a day-to-day basis. And that's really the story of safety culture, how we've enabled the mobile technology or the mobile phone, whether it's a phone or a tablet, to empower the frontline work. And I'm going to share some of those stories with you guys as we continue the discussion. So that's a little bit about me. Moving on really quickly, and this is where our first little question is going to come in. We all work across a range of industries. Your industry is particularly amazing, your universities and all the complexities associated with the university campuses, and just how the university industry is probably changing on online courses and the likes. It's a very dynamic, very exciting space, and you would have lots of aspects. It'd be quite a complex work environment if you think of the various disciplines that you would be across. And one of the main fundamental purposes or fundamental challenges that we have as a business is, how do we engage with our frontline workers? How do we engage with those people in the field? How do we, it's not just a head office kind of ivory tower type environment, but how do we truly democratize every single person within our organizations? And if we think about that in the context of universities, I get quite nervous just thinking about that. It's a broad field, and it's a massive area from campuses to lecturers and everything in between, and all the support staff to the actual students, the accommodation. Your industry is quite diverse when you start to think about it. And one of the key aspirations from a safety point of view, but also from a safety culture point of view, is how do we engage with that frontline worker? How do we engage with these individuals on the front line? And a really interesting statistic for us, and this is something we use quite regularly, is that the frontline workers make up 80% of the global workforce. So if you think of that in terms of your context and where you're working, that's 80%. If you're not engaging with those individuals that are on the shop floor, that are doing the work on a day-to-day basis, you're actually only engaging with 20% of your community or of your group. Now, in preparing for these slides, it was quite an interesting piece for me, because I was trying to think, well, what would, if I was to take out, our frontline workers make up 80% and put in what they would, a word that probably better sits within the universities area, what would you guys say that is? If, take them, frontline worker is very industry heavy, to think about a construction industry, manufacturing, or mining, you know who your frontline worker is. What would your frontline worker be within the university space? I'm really interested to hear from you guys. No, any comments? Emilio, how would you define your biggest community, your biggest frontline worker crowd?
In terms of numbers, I would probably say we've got, the students would be up there. Probably now, though, after COVID, that might have changed a little bit. But with regards to the ones that are least experienced, that would be the students. And then you've got your technical staff who are actually preparing and looking after all your labs, if you've got them, or the materials that are used for teaching. That's what I would say.
Yeah, thanks, Amelia. And I think for that one, sorry, Renee, you wanted to say something?
Hi, I just wanted to mention that at the Werribee campus at the University of Melbourne, we've got a veterinary hospital. So that has a very front-facing frontline worker group as well.
Yeah, and you see, these little nuances that you just don't think about all day, every day, where you've got these specialized divisions like veterinary or your agricultural sciences, which would have some pretty colorful safety risks associated with those disciplines. And I think I love, and just also seeing the comments come through in the chat around your academics, your students, your professionals. They're absolutely your largest. That's your frontline. That's the group. You could probably also argue that they would be your customers. At the end of the day, as a universities, those are the individuals your customers that you're there to care for and look after and add services and add value to. But definitely your frontline worker. And I think that the piece for us is so amazing. Not only do you want to obviously limit and control the hazards and risks associated with that community and the environments that they're working in, but how do you really engage with them? How do you empower those individuals so that they can generate just intelligence for you guys and generate what they're doing? The really exciting space is obviously in the student space. It's the younger demographic, very comfortable with mobile phones, very comfortable with technology with regards to how they live and breathe this stuff all day, every day, and just leveraging off that collective intelligence of an ability to use technology and how we can do that. I think it's a very exciting space for you guys to be in, and an exciting journey to be on. Just a little bit about, let's get my slides to work, a little bit about a recent project that I've been working on quite extensively. It's with the New South Wales government, and just to give you a sense of what it is, we're building these radio towers for emergency services. So if you look at the top of the screen, these look like TV antenna. They're actually your two-way radio antenna for all your rural fire services, police, ambulances and the likes, and really building a network across the New South Wales state for all emergency services. There's 6 agencies, so your police, your fire, rural fire services, SES, and then on top of that there's another 78 smaller agencies that all leverage off this technology and off this radio network, like your lifeguards and your smaller type government agencies. I actually even think when I was last looking at it, the university's radio network and services are also going to be coming, or at least in New South Wales, we'll be part of what they call the GRN, the government radio network. So we have just it's a high-risk construction project. You can imagine we've got individuals hanging off the side of these towers doing this installation work on a day-to-day basis. But the story I really want to share with you guys today is just how through technology we've been able to manage a national rollout across the entire state, which is a large geographical area. And in me sharing the story with you, I'm just hoping that it'll share some of the opportunities that you may have within your organizations, within your teams to manage the various aspects of safety. For those of you that are not aware, in the construction space, typically you would have your big safety files full of paper, your risk assessments, your SWIMs, your tool inspections, your PPE, all the JSAs. I mean, it's a raft and raft of documentation that gets carried around by these individuals every single day on site. And it literally is a big piece of wad of paper that sits in their utes and in their vehicles. At any given time on this project, we've probably got about 40 active construction sites. We call them construction sites because they're little mini construction sites where the individuals or the teams would be doing construction work. And one of the biggest challenges I had as the safety manager on this project was visibility of those operations. I had teams literally across the state doing work, some of them, hundreds of kilometers away, and I had no visibility of the effectiveness of the controls, how they were being implemented, and it was all paper-based. And through the iAuditor platform and safety culture, we were very quickly able to digitize all of those forms, put them into a digital form. I didn't have to go out and purchase a whole bunch of mobile phones or tablets. Everyone had their mobile phone on them. All they had to do was download the app. And literally, guys, within weeks, I was able to get that instant visibility of what was happening in the field. I could get verification of their pre-starts, what the site conditions were. We actually introduced a daily site synopsis, which gave us a summation report of the works that had been completed for the day and some key control photos. And it was such an empowering exercise for me personally. Not only did I help the individuals, the frontline teams, just simplify their lives. Before, they were carrying around folders. We had instances where the files hadn't arrived on site and they couldn't start work because they couldn't do their pre-starts and checklists, and pieces of paper get lost. We were able to digitize that for the guys. They were able to complete their work. We reduced the administrative burden on these individuals physically doing the work, because now they didn't have to flick through pieces of paper. Just streamlined those processes for them. But more importantly, especially from a government point of view, we were able to get visibility in real time. Because it's a digital platform, it's based on mobile technology, it's an app that they were downloading. We were able to see as the information was coming in. So as they would fill out a form, or as they would report an issue, as that information came in, we would get instant notifications and instant visibility of that information. On top of all of that, what is really, I don't know if any of you have worked, and I'm not too sure if what the university is like, but working on a large infrastructure project within government, your layers of governance and your layers of reporting are so onerous. And we were literally having to run reports and give, feed information within the various reporting cycles, weekly, bi-weekly and monthly. But because we were able to digitize these processes end to end, we had those records in real time. It was as simple as just running analytics data or sending a PDF up the chain. So just in terms of my personal administrative burdens and control, I reduced the time that I would be spending on the admin control, and had more time to actually focus on some of the more pressing issues that we had from a build perspective. So that's a little bit around my journey and how technology, especially mobile-based technology, through the iAuditor platform, has really simplified one project and one area. And having said that, it was transformational for this project, and they're still using it at the moment, and it's hugely beneficial for them as a team. So that's that one piece, and just to give you a quick snapshot of what that could look like for you guys. The next piece around that is really, and this statement resonates so much with me, is every employee counts. And I think I've been guilty of this so many times as a safety professional, where I would push down a very high level policy or procedure. Especially, I do a lot of work at heights, in the work at height space, mainly because of the telco industry. And we'd come up with this really colorful work at heights policy or procedure, and we'd push it down to the team. And the first riggers would get their little paws on it, and they would literally laugh at us. They'd go, "You guys are a bunch of muppets. You don't know what you're talking about. We could never implement that policy or procedure." And I think by flipping it over through technology and actually putting it in their hands, allowing those teams in the field to dictate and determine what those controls should look like, take photographic evidence of what best practice would look like. We actually, it wasn't left to me as the safety professional to set policy and procedure. It was largely determined by the collective, the persons in the field, and giving ourselves that real-time visibility of their environment. They were able to go through it, check it, and take ownership for it. It wasn't this bureaucratic top-down approach. It was more underswell of those individuals in the field that could use the platform, and by them using it, we learned in real time what was best practice. We learned how they could best engage with those high-risk activities. and how to best implement those controls. And instead of it being the safety team or the operations team making these decisions, we generally found that that frontline worker, those individuals, steered the conversation, and they were able to contribute to best practice, and really helped us make those most effective decisions in what we were rolling out and how we were rolling it out. It was a truly empowering exercise from our point of view. And then the other piece linked to this was really around, and this is more from a leadership point of view. Do you know what really happened today? You know, how often are businesses today or universities today making some big decisions based on information that's potentially week or months old, but also not really having that level of visibility that they may really want, especially from a risk management point of view. And by enabling that frontline worker, by enabling all of your students to be contributors through technology, by enabling your systems and your processes at a digital level, you can your ability to engage, your ability to roll out is limitless. And once you start to get people engaging with a platform and using the data, that creates so many points of intelligence or points of significance for you as an organization. And especially at a leadership point of view, no longer are you playing in that reactive space. And I'm pretty sure you've all been in that area at the moment where something goes wrong and everyone jumps off and we run on, do our investigations, or we, have our crisis meetings, and we try and control the situation as best as we can are really, really important. But if we could turn the dial slightly on that and have it more in the proactive space where we're analyzing how the real work is being done through a digital platform in real time, you're able to anticipate those failure points. You're able to assess where they're coming from and where they're going. And by doing that, you're not waiting for something to go wrong and then learning from your mistakes, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you can really learn from real work and how it's happening on a day-to-day basis. And playing that data back to your leadership team, giving them the visibility of, a lot of our senior managers sit in their offices and have an idea of how things are playing out in the field, but actually playing it back to them in real life. And for me personally, the power of a photo is photos and videos are just transformational. So many times I'd sit with my leadership team and I'd actually play them a video and say, well, you thought this was how they were doing the work in the field, but actually let me show you a video of how that really took place. And then designing your systems and your controls to align with how work was really being done. But giving that visibility to your leadership team so that they can make key decisions was another key aspect for me on this project. And then the last piece, and I think I've touched on this is around that culture of ownership. I don't know what it is, and I can't really explain it to you. There's something about putting a signature on a form or doing a digital inspection when you're adding photos. We see it day and day in this platform, but I see it day and day across some of my clients as well, is by giving people a tool that they can, raise issues, raise concerns, assign actions, and also acknowledge information is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And there's just that difference between I was having a conversation with one of our colleagues in the UK, and from a compliance point of view, they had these rooms of literally files of inspection forms and checklists on various plants and equipment, and they were literally stored in rooms. No one had any visibility of that. They knew that many years ago I did that inspection, and they just kept it in that room in case there was a litigation case and they could pull it out to demonstrate management control. But actually having that data being used, it doesn't just get ticked off and then stored in a filing cabinet somewhere, that you actually have the visibility. Everyone can see the actions, everyone can see what issues have been raised. You really do create a culture of ownership, and you broaden it. Doesn't just become safety's responsibility, or doesn't just become an individual's responsibility. It's this collective ownership because of the visibility that you create through the platform. And again, guys, really powerful opportunity through technology that you can, again, broaden that level of visibility, and that broaden that level of just responsiveness. And then lastly, and I'll close here before I go to some questions, and then probably share some user case stories with you. It's really time for us to think about how we position our safety management systems differently, and really focus on that the end user, the customer, the frontline worker, and how do we genuinely make it simple and easy for those individuals that are engaging with our systems and our controls on a day-to-day basis. And I'm very conscious, guys, in your context, that could mean a lot of different things. If we're talking about your students, if we're talking about accommodation, or even if we're talking about the veterinary college situation, it's so diverse, it's so complex, but just being mindful of what that means from our perspective as safety professionals and empowering those individuals that are having to manage and engage with these risks on a day-to-day basis. And really seeing what that real change is, so really seeing that on a day-to-day basis. I want to encourage you to look at it that way rather than a head office top-down approach. It's been truly transformational from my side to just see how empowering, how we've enabled the frontline worker to work more effectively in that space through technological solutions. I'm going to pause there for a second, really keen to hear some questions or even some challenges on this, or even if you've got some similar stories to share. I know some of you use the platform as is. Is anyone else using iAuditor on this call?
Yeah, all across EQ.
Oh, wow. And what would your specific user case be, Marie?
So we got all the safety professionals added into the system. So they do the annual inspections and other type of inspections through our iAuditor. We'll have then some data and some trends.
Amazing. And do you find that very helpful, that data and the trends that it gives your teams?
We probably will have more useful information after the end of this year because it hasn't been really fully implemented until last year and this year. So yeah, I expect that will be most helpful at the end of this year. Otherwise, it was at the moment was not useful, but I think after everybody will do the inspections this year in iAuditor will have really good data.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for sharing that story. Glenn, I know you put something in the chat there that you guys use it for UTS, for your inspections. I'm assuming that's safety inspections, Glenn?
Yes, safety inspections. I don't actually use it. It's other members of the team, particularly in our engineering department, use it, and our science department. So I'm not not an actual user myself.
Right. And have you got any feedback from those users, Glenn? Or have they found it to be quite intuitive and helpful?
I really can't say. I'm not in contact with them on that, so it's a different role to mine. So
yeah, no problem. And I think it's such an interesting piece for me, just how the platform, how broadly the platform can be used or is used in many scenarios. And you mentioned in the labs, and I would imagine they're using that to do some of the key inspections of some of those elements within the labs to make sure that it's safe for the students to do the works. And again, that's quite a powerful place to be in, that you could use that technology, you could use it, you could collate that information. And a really interesting space for you guys as a collective team is potentially if you're all using technology to capture these controls, to do your inspections, to validate the effectiveness of your controls, potentially you can share that information collectively at an association level, which is going to give you a real richness of information and help better design the safety management standards and controls of the future. So once you have rich data around those controls and what your risks are, you're able to then plan better for the future and look at those areas. And thank you as well for your thing around the infrastructure and capital projects. I think it's amazing. Again, this the diversity of the university world, where there's a lot of your facilities and your capital projects and your building infrastructure projects, and how the platform is being used to manage those aspects. Brilliant. Thank you guys for your feedback, and I'm really encouraged just to hear how everyone is engaging with technology in any way, shape or form. And yeah, Maria, absolutely, your senior managers. I think just being able to, the real piece for me that made such a big difference with my senior managers is I wasn't just showing them data that I kind of made up, if that makes sense. It kind of we would pull some numbers together, but we actually showed them real data in real time. So much so that on that construction project that I shared with you, because of COVID, we were able to pause and head into a virtual leadership tour. So we were able to actually stop, and because people couldn't travel because of COVID, our senior leaders could do virtual leadership tours, could go into the platform, click on the various sites, have a look at the photos, understand the working conditions, and look at the outstanding actions, look at the outstanding issues related to that site. And that they took so much knowledge and so much learning out of that happening, and they could do that relatively in real time because they were looking at stuff that happened yesterday. They weren't looking at stuff that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I think it also comes back to that reporting to your senior managers, is you can give them that information, you can show them those pictures, you can send them those videos, which is really powerful. And having that data source was incredibly rich from my perspective. Amelia, just conscious of time, bud. And I've got 2 user cases I'd probably like to share with the team, but I'm also happy if we need to park it here. How much longer do we have?
It is 11:30, but I took up a little bit of the time with the intro and we waited for a few people. So I think you can at least go through one, that's for sure.
Perfect. No, perfect. Thanks, guys. And then just wanted to share one quick story with you guys around Fontana University School District and just how they're using the platform, because I thought this would be really relevant to you guys with regards to your students now coming back to the campuses as we move out of our COVID environment. And just to give you some, it's actually one of the platform is being used massively at the moment for COVID and COVID management and assessing the hygiene, the safety related facilities, and the likes within your environments. And just to give you a sense of their numbers here, they use the platform to do all their COVID safety checks to make sure that the facilities are clean, the cleaners are cleaning the hygiene facilities, and that their students can come back to those facilities in the safest way possible. So just wanted to leave that as a last message with you guys to say that it's not just, the platform is broad, the platform is wide, and really to encourage you to think of all the aspects that technology can support you guys on in your journey. Thank you, Emilio. Thank you, team, for allowing us this opportunity to share a little bit of our story, and I hope you found this meaningful.
Thank you very much, Dwayne. That was very insightful, and thanks for your time presenting this as well, and all your effort, and thanks to you, Gillian, as well. Does anyone have any questions? I thought perhaps maybe we can, if you'd like to use the raise your hand function, I can call you out, or you're free to unmute yourself and ask a question as well. Dwayne loves questions, so all out. Of course, you can use the chat as well if you wish. It's pretty quiet. It's almost lunchtime. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Thanks, Amelia.
Can I ask one quick one?
Sure.
Dwayne, you talk about how you could activate the students. It's quite a unique workforce or frontline worker is the students, and how could we activate them to be the eyes and the ears in, say, university environment, what we've seen through QR codes and such.
Yeah, thanks for that, Julian. I think one of the key aspects of the platform is what we're calling our issues functionality, which is a short, sharp, quick capture tool that enables individuals to identify hazards or just incidences or events within the workspace. And I'm quite excited for what that could mean for all of your students. And the nice thing about it, it's linked to a customized QR code. So you could have a QR code specific to your campuses. You could place it all over the place, and you could really encourage your students to capture or report on any hazards or any broken or faulty items. And just by using that group of individuals as your eyes and ears, so to speak, in the field, I think will give you guys such a richness of data, such a rich data source, but would also help drive those improvement behaviors that you may want to drive within your organization. And then the real benefit is obviously using the good old QR code, and that's probably the one positive thing to come out of COVID is everyone now is very familiar with the QR code and how to use it. So again, you're leveraging off technology that's out there. It's being used. Everyone's comfortable and familiar with it, and by very simplistically in the platform, you're able to take a photo, scan in an issue, and report that to a group of individuals to say, hey, potentially we have this hazard.
Right, that's good. I personally like the fact that how simple it was to migrate the paper form or the actual checklist that we had, the local, onto the iAuditor system. I managed to do it myself using the online website, but I've got colleagues who sent that through into you guys, and whoever it is actually did it for them and communicated with them to make sure that it's suitable. A lot of people are afraid of how is the system going to, talk to me. Is it going to be easy? I'm not that good at it. So it's nice to see that there's some support there to do that. Yeah.
Emilio, I have a question.
Yeah, go, Mikhail.
Gwen, we look at the different system across different universities. There is a way of extracting the data so it can be simply inputted in the other university systems, because we can see across the universities there is a lot of different systems, and even within the same university there is a lot of system used, and most of them encourage to use the local systems for health and safety hazards reporting. And as you said, if you have a QR code and the student reported through your apps, what is the possibility of extracting this data in a form that other softwares may understand it as fields and then just capture the data straight away? I know it's not that straightforward, but there is a possibility of that. Is it in the system? What is the capabilities of doing that?
No, absolutely, Mikhail. And to be honest, it's one of the key aspects of the platform. So it's got what we call an open API. And there's a lot of integrations that the team can do for you guys with your other systems. I would probably say the limitation is not going to be on the iAudit platform side. It'll be on your other system side. Right. So it really depends on what that could be. But to be honest with you, these days you can. I mean, I play a lot in the project management space, and we just generally pull the data sources from various platforms, and we collate it in a little mini database or a little mini central location, and then you can run your Tableau reports or your Power BI reports. But no, in terms of integrations, the platform supports a range of integrations, and is really, really simple to use in that respect. But again, yeah, it's how you want to share that information with the other parties that you'd probably need to solve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Great. We're happy to leave it there. I think we've gone a little bit over time, but thanks again, Dwayne and Julian, and thanks to everyone who attended today. Maybe just some reminders. So have a look at our upcoming AUSA events. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn. We will be providing a copy of this recording as well online, as well with a copy of the slides for your reference in the future. And if you have any feedback, please feel free to deliver it to AUSA or to myself directly. So thanks again for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone, for organizing that. Thank you for the